Based on details at the scene, we believe this was an isolated, targeted attack on our victims.
He's very quiet, calculated about what he says.
I want to see an innocent man, but I feel like he's just scared to look at me in the eyes.
If you plead guilty or found guilty, it is up to death and/or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Welcome back. We got some brand new developments in the Idaho 4 student murders case, and these developments could tip the scales of justice potentially against defendant Bryan Kohberger, as prosecutors are now responding to his notice of alibi, essentially saying what I said on this program, that it's not an alibi. Prosecutors issued a response saying, in part, quote, the defendant's supplemental alibi response continues to lack the specificity required by Idaho Code 19519, which provides that the defense shall state the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense. It goes on to say, quote, the defendant is offering nothing new to his initial alibi that he was simply driving around during the morning hours of November 13th, 2022. All right, so prosecutors are saying there's no alibi here, and if you can't produce with specificity either the person or the evidence that can prove you were at some other place and it's impossible you did these homicides, then nobody should be able to testify to this except for you, Bryan Kohberger. You, of course, can testify. Oh boy, what does this mean for the Kohberger defense? Remember, this is another death penalty case. We have on death penalty certified criminal defense attorney and trial advocacy professor Don Malarsic with us. Don, you've heard about this stargazing alibi that Kohberger's riding around in his car alone. We know he turns his phone off during the window of time that the homicides were committed, but yet this defense team still filed this notice. First question to you, please. Do you think this was a mistake to try to make him driving around alone an alibi?
Well, Julie, you know, as alibis go, this isn't a slam dunk. This is more like a 3/4 of the court shot at the last second. It's not good. But having said that, I will tell you, as you know, Julie, there is a notice requirement that the defense is required to notify the government and the court if they do intend to argue alibi. And obviously, the defense doesn't want to put as much detail in there as they need to. I mean, you want to keep it vague. You want to keep your options open. You want to really not lock your client and your defense team into a specific date, moment, time, and witnesses. The problem is that's exactly what an alibi is. You've got to provide the government with witnesses in order to substantiate this alibi. And the problem is, as you noted, Julie, the only person that can really substantiate this alibi, it seems, is the defendant himself. And that's the worst of all places to be for defense attorneys.
Right, Don. I mean, this guy, the idea of him testifying, not a good idea, as I'm sure you would say. And I have something else from the defense motion to give the state notice of alibi, and they talk about how Kohberger had this habit of late night drives, and it reads in part, as an avid runner and hiker, he explored many areas. After the school year began, he was busy with classes, working at Washington State University, and his running and hiking decreased but didn't stop. Instead, his nighttime drives increased. This is supported by data from his phone showing him in the countryside late at night and or in the early morning on several occasions. Professor, this makes me think of the rules of habit evidence. You know, are they even going to be successful, in your opinion, at establishing this as a habit? Because you know what I think of? I think of like my mother, who's faithfully in church every Monday morning at 9 a.m. You know, that's a habit. That's her habit. You can count on it. This, do you think they can get this in?
Well, you know, again, it's pretty thin. And it's thin because you don't have any supporting witnesses. I'm sure that there are lots of folks at your mom's church who could come in and testify that she was there,
Mama
sitting
G
in the
there,
front
yes.
row, absolutely, praying for her daughter and being grateful for her wonderful daughter. There's lots of witnesses that could substantiate that. But in this case, you just have Mr. Kohberger and his phone that tend to show that he likes to run and walk outside. I mean, whose phone really doesn't show that you like to go outside for periods periods of time. So the court has to balance, the relevance of this evidence versus the potential prejudicial effect on the jury. And this is really, really going to be a close call. These are all motions in limine. The court's going to have to take a serious look at this and then rule in the moment at the trial whether or not this alibi evidence and pattern evidence can come in. And again, I think it's going to come down to, do they put Mr. Kohberger on the stand? He can testify, this is what I do, this is my habit, and here's my phone records that support that. The question I think is does it come in without him? And that's going to be a tougher decision for the court.
Right, Don. I want to ask you about something else too. While his phone data can be supportive of certain things with his alibi, places where he went on the late night drive that night of the student homicides, one of the problems that has really become front and center in this case is that his phone is shut off. And we have here the exact times here, 2:47 a.m. Police believe the homicides occurred. Again, it's an estimate between 4 a.m., 4:25 a.m. And then his phone's powered back on at 4:48 a.m. How bad do you think this evidence is for the defense team, Don?
I mean, it's really devastating. It's really bad. I mean, I don't know how many of us watching have turned off their phone at 2:30 and turned it back on at 4:30. It just doesn't really happen. It doesn't make sense. So this is really powerful, compelling evidence for the government to suggest that he was trying to cover his tracks, and this is exactly the same time frame where the homicides were allegedly committed. So I think it's really powerful, significant evidence for the government, and it poses a huge number of problems for the defense.
Don Mueller, I wish we could have you on the show every day. You're so knowledgeable. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. We'll see you again very soon.